It'll take a minute to go through. I'll let you know when I know that it's up.
Excellent connection.
Excellent connection.
That's promising.
There's no video here, though. Give it a second. There it is.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Welcome back to New Orleans. I'm Andrew. We've got James this evening. How you feeling, James?
Good. I have all these computers. I'm trying to figure out how to use them.
We only doing this once a month or so. It's a fresh challenge every time.
There it is.
Man, oh, y'all are here. Nice. Jimmy's awake. Thanks for getting up at the crack of 6 p.m. And Menifee, it's true. I still don't know where that is. Hello, all of our Californians, and hello, all of our friends from all over. Man, from California to Brooklyn to Alabama, all three coasts.
Nice.
And Minnesota, the coast of the lakes. Y'all, some of you have been around for this before, but I feel like I just always have to prove that we're in as cool of a place as we are. We're at Le Petit Theater, James's workplace.
We're in New Orleans in a real theater. That's not a Zoom background.
It's true. It's not a Zoom background, and you know how you can tell?
He likes to throw things every time. We don't let him throw things on the other tours, so I guess it's his outlet. I don't know. We could play sports. No. Proving it's not a Zoom background.
It's summer. None of us can do quite as much physical activity outside as we would normally want to do.
It's so hard to be outside, y'all. It's not.
Y'all seriously are not missing out. I mean, those of you who are coming here shortly, we're going to be delighted to have you one way or another. Just gird yourselves. And hey, if you're coming from the Pacific Northwest, apparently it would be a huge improvement. Hey, everybody. New Orleans is the home party. It's true. We originated the concept of the party. Little known fact. Hi, Tasha. Hi, John. Hi, Bucky. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Craig. Man, it just goes and goes. Y'all, thank you for tuning in. It's delightful having such a... Okay, best comment yet. Hello to the post-Return of the Jedi Luke of my headcanon. I'm going to assume you mean James. Because Luke did go off and kind of disappear for a while and,
and came back fuzzy.
Presumably grew a beard. I think grew a beard even in the movies. Didn't watch the sequels.
I'm also not CG, so I have that going for me. Unlike Luke in the latest movie Luke appeared in. Never mind, that's too esoteric. Maybe someone will get it.
Y'all, among our, we've got questions already, and I do think Southern Decadence will push through. That's part of what we want to share is that, y'all, we are getting into like onslaught season as far as the return of festivals is concerned. Apropos of the Star Wars parallel, Volume 3, Return of the Festivals.
Return of the Festivals.
Summer Strikes Back is maybe what we're just about to get finished with. Return of the Festivals is soon to begin in an outdoor area near you. Oh, nice. We have someone just back from New Orleans, going back home to Mississippi. Hi, Kevin. And Jody, happy to distract you from work. And Elizabeth is going to be here March 1st. Man, counting the days already. That's gonna be a little while. Y'all, just to quickly outline what we're going to work with today, apart from y'all's questions, which we are always happy to have. We have a little bit in the way of an update from the ground over here. We've also got the huge amount of upcoming events going on, and they've really gotten started in the last little bit and escalating. And then we've had some people in our Facebook group asking about safety in New Orleans, so we'll share a little bit about that. And, of course, take your questions all along the way. Jeffrey, the vegan-vegetarian video, totally. That's a thing I would love to throw out there.
It's a great idea.
And in the meantime, we actually have a vegan festival coming up here in the later part of the summer, September, I want to say. I just glimpsed it on the way here, so it's actually not on the list of events that I'm going to be sharing. I didn't take notes.
I didn't know about a vegan festival.
Yeah, it's like 3 years old. It's quite new.
Yeah.
And Halloween, of course, is going to be implied. And Marina is coming back. Hi, Marina. Nice to see you back here, and so glad you'll be back here before too long. So getting into all this stuff, y'all. So for starters, I think since we talked, I've started doing public tours again. Mm-hmm. The tour scene in the city has been really getting back to life. And it's been really cool getting to meet some of y'all in person. That's been a real fixture of the last little while. I've gotten to do several tours with watchers of the channel. So hey to those of you who I hung out with this past Friday, Liz, Rebecca, and company, a couple more of y'all. So really fun times. I'm looking forward to meeting some of y'all in person later on. We're also we've been on kind of a limited schedule recently, but we're like beefing it back up. So we've just started giving, if any of y'all have been like checking out your options in advance of a trip, but you're about to actually do your trip soon. We have recently added back to our calendar our Treme tour, which is a super important piece of the history that more and more people are interested in. Our cocktail tours are back online, which is like the definition of fun. And then pretty soon, we're going to be getting our culinary tours back online.
Yes.
And we actually, so this has been a little bit of a crisis in New Orleans tourism. Cemetery access has just been a non-thing for a while. The two main cemeteries people tend to visit have not been open to the public, and people have a strange hunger for cemeteries when they visit here. It's like partying and cemeteries are the main things you do. The poems write themselves.
Yeah.
So we are actually considering soon, hopefully, opening up tours of Metairie Cemetery, which is a gorgeous one.
Cool, yeah.
That's like off the touristic beaten path for sure.
Yeah, but not too far because you can take the streetcar.
That's right. You actually can take
the
a
streetcar
from the
there.
French Quarter to
Yeah.
get to the area, which has lots of beautiful cemeteries. As a huge fan of cemeteries, I think it's automatically worth it. I think we have a strange aversion in the French Quarter in New Orleans because we give tours in just like two neighborhoods for the most part and things immediately flanking them. And so to us, it's very strange to imagine asking people to like come out to the end of a streetcar line, pass under an interstate, and meet at a cemetery. But people in like bigger cities like New York do that sort of thing to see good stuff all the time. So y'all let us know. Would you take a ride and walk under an interstate overpass?
Have you seen the new series of movies that's come out, the escape room movies?
I haven't. I've heard about them.
They're basically these people sign up for an escape room. I haven't seen them. I just watched the trailers and I'm extrapolating. They sign up for an escape room and they like show up and they think it's going to be this awesome escape room experience, but it's actually like a Final Destination, and they all get picked off one by one. That is not what Free Tours by Metairie Cemetery Tour is. You have to go a little bit of a trek, but it's actually an excellent cemetery tour.
Thank you for that elegant contrast, James.
Just tying it all in. Keeping it together.
To some questions, Tanya, I believe we can reasonably say that Essence is going to be back
Tanya,
next year.
I was part of the production team on the digital Essence. I hope you got to watch it this past weekend. I did some of the pre-taping stuff we did back in June, and everybody with the Essence team, and especially Mary Cantrell, were all in to have Essence back in full force in 2022. So that's happening as far as everybody involved is concerned. It's gonna be back. So
barring major surprises, I think we can count on a full festival calendar for the coming year and a half, starting much sooner than when Essence would be next year. Mm-hmm. Hi, Carla. Of course, we remember you. Lovely to see you back, even Carla. In new clothes. And then we have some folks planning on coming from late summer through fall. Awesome. And yes, Radio Benchley. Yeah, there's a lot of history. I've had to do more reading than ever to keep these things going. And Michael, question about City Hall moving to Congo Square. Slight adjustment to that. So it would be next to Congo Square in the municipal auditorium. But right now, the city council has put a hold on that idea.
Kind of backed off on it. There was a fair amount of pushback. Yeah. It's an interesting idea because that building, the municipal auditorium, which is right next to Congo Square, and it's a place where there were originally a lot of amazing jazz performances and a lot of the performing arts history of the city was happening. But it's been unused for, 30 years
since
now.
Katrina. It flooded during Katrina and was like in sparse use before that.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting building that I hope we can find some use for, but for a number of reasons, they've decided not to move City Hall there immediately.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of, in the Treme, I mean, y'all can watch our Treme tour for some perspective on this, but there's a lot of history of city government intervention, even with good intentions, having kind of not the best effects. And so you can understand perhaps some shyness about that sort of thing. We definitely could use a new city hall, but we will see where it ends up being. And then Mike coming down from Champaign, Illinois via the Amtrak. Love that ride.
Love the
Want to
Amtrak.
do that again.
Always a good time.
And we had a visitor from just a few weeks ago staying in Algiers Point. That's a bit different, but there's a lot of great stuff within easy reach from there. Good call.
Ferry right across.
And we've got some yeses to the idea of covering a little distance to see a cemetery. Yeah. Appreciate y'all. And yeah, Metairie Cemetery. I am stoked for this idea. I hope it works. Don't want to do the things I had to do to take a Jack the Ripper tour in London. I mean, it should get you in the mood, right? And we also have more escape rooms than ever opening here, so you can actually live one of those.
Rooms, there's a number of excellent escape rooms here. I'll plug my favorite, which is called Escape My Room.
Yeah, beautiful design.
They've done a great job with the theming of it. One thing they do that I've never seen in another, and I've done escape rooms all over the country, they have all of their rooms interconnected, stylistically, but also plot-wise. It's the whole Delachaise family, I think. Delaporte family. And all the rooms are connected, so if you're always learning a little bit more of the big story of the family as you go through their rooms. It's excellent. I highly recommend Escape My Room.
Yeah, and it's in the Central Business District, so really easy to get to. Super innocuous, but easy.
Near a lot of the hotels.
And then with tombstones and vegan okra gumbo, absolutely. And Brendan, there are chill vibes to be found here any time of the year.
Absolutely.
For literal chill, fall and spring are a whole lot more pleasant than summer, but they do get more crowded. You just got to go a little further from the beaten path to make that happen. But yeah, chillness is our chief product regardless of the time of the year. Yeah. Hi, Dennis. We just emailed a little while ago. And Bucky, French Quarter Festival was pushed back actually just to late September, early October. We're going to get into that. But it is going to be insanely packed. Yes, the entire month of October is going to be insane. The cool thing about French Quarter Fest, and we'll get into this more, is that it's much easier to kind of come and go as the crowds get to you. So you have a bit more leeway than you would at, say, Jazz Fest, which is in an enclosed space where you can't leave without losing the value of your ticket.
That's right.
Mike, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mike.
And then, I see you corrected yourself, Bucky. Essay from NC says, we'll be returning in August. Do you know if they will have the museum or restaurant deals going on for the month? So among the things that we will be introducing as we go, so it's not, the museums aren't back at full tilt. They are all open, but not everything is hosting as many events as it used to.
The one loss, I think, is the Insectarium.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to be moving, but are not currently available. Yeah. That's right. We even have a new one that we mentioned last time, the Museum of the Southern Jewish Experience. Mm-hmm. But we've got Culinary coming up, which will be a big, kind of restaurant experience that makes a lot of things more affordable. So we'll be getting into that when we go through all of our options. And Marina Labor Day weekend, yes, there is stuff going on. We will get into that in just a second. And Jeffrey, thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. And Angie, great question. How do I locate free tours by foot when visiting New Orleans? We are very Googleable, and we are linked in all of our own videos. And so you can find your way to the website, which has a lot of blog posts and self-guided tours and stuff. And you can also easily, there's at the top of every single web page, there's a book online button, and you can just find your way to the dates you'll be here and see all the things that are available. We're only booking tours a few months out at this point just because things are still a little bit uncertain. So if you're looking at October, November, we wouldn't have those options yet, but you could give a look to the sooner ones to get a feel for what the range of options is going to be.
Yeah, and as far as physically locating free tours by foot, each tour starts in its own area. So once you sign up for a tour, they'll let you know when and where to meet at a particular street corner or landmark. Yeah,
and sign up is a good idea just because as the fall rolls in, even now though, we regularly see things fill up. So in terms of things that are going to be going on soon, so just the big picture of kind of reopening in New Orleans. We have, since we all talked last, if you were here for our talk in June, we've had our first big in-person music festivals in New Orleans, and that was just this past weekend. So we had one in the metro area in early June, but now we've had it in the French Quarter. We had a Zydeco festival this past weekend, as well as the Creole Tomato Festival. There was a second line. There were dancers dressed up as tomatoes. It felt like just the regular old thing.
Yeah.
So
getting back to it.
That stuff's happening again. And you can just run into those things serendipitously because they just keep on happening. So yeah, that's all coming back. We also had fireworks for the 4th.
We did.
We almost didn't. Because they're privately run in town. It's just a big show that a company does, but and they opted not to this year. But then Will Smith, at the last second, came out of the woodwork. He's involved in a film that's shooting here, and decided to give the city that gift.
Yeah, to make it happen. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, Will Smith moved the film from Georgia to New Orleans.
That's right.
Yeah, he moved the whole film over here because he decided it was a better city.
A lot of publicity around that stuff, and objectively true.
Yeah.
Yay, Will Smith.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yay, Will Smith. Absolutely.
So, oh man, we have a fan of Reasonably Corrupt, y'all. We didn't mean to do product placement, but I guess we have done by now. We like to rotate through the different local breweries, and this one is one from up in Shreveport, the northern part of the state. Darlena, thank you.
Thank you, Darlena.
And visiting from the couch, indeed. Y'all, by the way, if you want to do, if like describing all these events going on in New Orleans is making you at all jealous, then if you want to get some vicarious New Orleans, our tours are one angle on that for sure. Lots and lots of stories. But man, if you want to like live it, John Batiste just released pretty recently a video for his song Freedom. Yeah. John Batiste, the music director from Colbert. And it is just like New Orleans life. Yeah, all of that kind of bright street culture.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah. Check that out if you want to get a taste, if you're feeling at all jealous. Stacy asks, can we do a local bar hopping tour? Yeah, I mean, we actually want to definitely make our cocktail tour into a video form. We're just getting where that's kind of feasible again. And so looking forward to that. And drunk history is a thing that we have pondered. We've got to get...
They're just commenting on how much I drink during every one of these.
Yeah, ask for James to tell some stories by the end of all this. We'll see. We might be able to just pipe it right in.
Yeah, and a bar hopping tour, you can do self-guided too. Just hop to the bars.
It's true.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Lauren, your son was one of the planners for the accordion festival. Man, I didn't make it to that, but I saw the music lineup and it was great. Yeah. You don't necessarily think when you live in New Orleans all the time about the number of different accordion players there are and how many different genres the accordion plays into. Accordion is one of these big tells of the German legacy in Cajun music, so that's the kind of really forward element of it here. But you've got this kind of Italian direction on it. You've got this like gypsy jazz thing. It goes in all different ways. So I will so look forward to that happening again. And Carla, there's lots of other good stuff produced here besides beer. Yes. Tanya, thank you.
Thank you,
nice
Tanya.
Surprise to see you too.
Yeah, great to have you with us.
Jeffrey, yes, I embarrassed myself at the end when I did a shot. I promise it was only me who actually could not successfully take a shot. Everybody else was just laughing at me. It ended up looking like they were... like we all had something terrible in our drinks. It was just me.
It was excellent.
Being incompetent. And y'all, you could hear James laugh during that at the end of our Pride video. Man, when you get him going, there's this James laugh, and then there's the wheezing James laugh, and then there's just the thunder. It's great.
Yeah, it was very surprising. And I had also taken my shot before we started, so I understood what was happening.
Doesn't drink while operating a camera. Very responsible. Hey, Christy. Nice to see you. So in terms of getting into events, things that are going on soon. So if y'all were planning a trip to New Orleans anytime soon, we have a note from one of the viewers who says, James, tough to hear your mic audio. So
I'm probably not talking into the mic. That. Sorry, I'm drifting around too much.
Let us know if that's an ongoing issue. So in terms of a few events that are coming up, y'all, so if anybody is coming here real soon, 4 days from now, July 10th, we have a couple of events. One of our classic summer events is our local version of Pamplona, Spain's Running of the Bulls, also called San Fermin. This in Pamplona means you're chased by a legit bull, and so there's this big run through the streets to try to stay ahead of the bull and not get gored. We don't vibe on that, and so instead you get chased by roller derby girls with like wiffle bats and just spanked by them as they go. Yeah. So you're much more likely to be attacked at this one, but it's in a much more sort of gratifying way.
Is this the red dress run?
Not the red dress run.
Not
separate
the red dress
from that.
Run. Oh, okay.
That is actually, I didn't catch the date for that, but the red dress run should be on the horizon too.
Yeah.
And then that same day, out in Faubourg Saint-Jean, the area around Bayou Saint-Jean, they're going to host a Bastille Day block party. Ooh. So anyone who's coming in this weekend, you got some good events happening.
Celebrate French independence.
That's right. And past that, we get into, at the end of the month, Satchmo Fest, which is our jazz festival every summer for Louis Armstrong, which culminates on his right shy of his birthday. He was born on August 4th. August the 1st is the last day of it. So we always aim towards that weekend. They've posted their music schedule, so you can get a sense of what they'd be all about. And then we would have on Labor Day weekend, Southern Decadence. So to the question about whether anything's going on then, yes, there is. So that is going to be the biggest gay festival that you've ever seen. You may have been to any number of prides. This is like less political and more hairy, and just a good time depending on what you're signing up for. But it, at the very least, offers a great parade. So even if you don't want to be where the festival is, and its main part is, the parade's a good time. Yeah. And I feel like that's maybe going to be our first like legit parade in New Orleans.
First big full-on parade.
I might be missing some, but we're marking a lot of firsts right now, y'all.
Jeffrey, there definitely is a naked bike ride. It was about 2 weeks ago. I would pull it up, but I feel like this is a PG-rated stream. But if you go to NOLA.com and type in naked bike ride, there's pictures, which you can peruse at your leisure. But yes, there's an annual naked bike ride, mostly for biker awareness, to make people more aware of bikers in the city.
It certainly makes you pay attention to bikers.
You're quite aware of the bikers.
Both by quantity and quality.
Yes.
And we've also got, in terms of upcoming events, I see someone's going to be here on the 18th. So one of the things that you would have access to is Culinary. And Culinary is a long-lasting thing during the summer. So it's going to run this year from July 15th to September 5th. And it's a program where you can go to lots of different restaurants. There's dozens of them all around town, and they've gotten gradually more numerous and more widespread. And they're going to have a prefix multi-course meal on offer that is their special culinary offering in addition to their usual menu, and it allows you to get a relatively affordable in on what can sometimes not be the most affordable restaurants, often with still a modicum of choice. So, a choice between 3 appetizers, 4 mains, something like that.
Yeah, it makes it really reasonable to eat at some really high-dollar restaurants. You can get a good meal for sometimes $25-$30 for the whole meal, and then you buy your cocktails, but it's excellent.
Yeah, this is honestly like, I usually save going to like the fancy restaurants that I need to at least know about for Culinary or the other similar programs that go on in other parts of the year. And it's a great opportunity
to try a new place because
absolutely,
you're taking a little bit of a risk every time with a new place. So
that's right.
Risk a little less, but they're almost all good. I mean,
Yeah, it is heavy on competition here for sure.
Yes. Hey AJ, welcome. Good to see you. Ryan, will Matt ever be featured in a video? It's a great question. He's in Mexico right now. When he gets back, we'll ask him.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Ryan. So, yeah, it was fun learning that you took a cemetery tour with him. He's actually one of the fellow St. Francisville people alongside James and Roby and me. We all came from the same town. Somehow all ended up working for the same company. Is nepotism involved? You decide. But, yeah, I would love
you guys are in charge of hiring. So, anyway.
Gave it away. Just coincidence. And we have a question. Does James keep pet squirrels in his beard?
You're going to have to wait and see. I'm not going to answer that.
It's like the pouch on a marsupial, they have to mature slowly, so you've got to give it some time.
See what happens.
We also, Carla, there are quotes. There is merch. I was reading further down in your thing, asking for some with quotes. We don't have any with quotes yet, but that day could come.
Is there merch?
There is merch, just for straight up T-shirts, not for the company, not for the New Orleans.
So we've been debating if people would do a T-shirt that's just Andrew's face, no words, just Andrew's face here.
Y'all can share whatever your opinion may be about that. I'm fairly certain of mine, but
it would just make it awkward for him to walk around the corner, which is really what we all want.
Weird opportunity to make eye contact with myself, and. Stacy, I hear a lot about pirates, but never heard of a pirate festival. So there actually is a pirate festival, not in New Orleans, but down in Lafitte, Louisiana. They do a pirate festival where their mayor walks the plank. It's really cute, really campy. Okay. We have not done pirate tours per se. The amount of pirate history in the quarter is less than it's sometimes trumpeted to be, but there is kind of a really important phase in the early 19th century around the time of the Battle of New Orleans where that really comes to the fore. And those stories are super interesting, but making a whole tour out of it gets a bit esoteric and doesn't connect with so many locations. So a lot of history tours will share that. And then, as you get into the darker sides of it, some like ghost and crime tours will share that stuff too.
Yeah.
So definitely something to watch for. But Lafitte, Louisiana shares a name with Jean Lafitte, who is the pirate who people best know of from here. Tim, tickets for Preservation Hall. So Prez Hall typically sells tickets in advance for their frontmost seats, and it would be a moot point whether they sold them in person because they just about always sell out well before the show, especially right now when they're on scanter numbers of shows. But you can get in person. Normally you are able to just wait in line and get inside. I believe they're still operating at a lower capacity.
I think so, but they are operating again now, which is great. Yeah.
So I would suggest getting a reservation because they are going to fill up really fast. So I would look in advance, but it is probably technically doable. And then let's get a little further down into our list because we have questions about later in September. What else is going on?
AJ is all about your face on his chest, just for your reference. But anyway, back to your notes.
So between September 20th and 23rd, y'all, I think our last digital festival is going to be happening then. So Tales of the Cocktail, which is an annual event, is going to be happening then, but they are going to be doing it online. After that, I suspect we're back in purely in-person territory, but that's actually sort of a professional event, more of a conference than a festival, with a lot of fun events that, the layman who's not in the bar or liquor industry could attend. And from there, y'all, it is just bonkers. That's really where
it's going to get intense.
And it's like some additions versus what I had heard of by the time we did last visit. Oh, and AJ also dropped $20. Thanks for that, AJ. Worth a shirt, totally. So starting in late September 25th is Beignet Festival. Beignets being our classic fried dough with powdered sugar dish, and there's a bunch of ways to do them. You can have savory beignets. They do live music at this. It's a great festival out at City Park. So that's going to be a one-day one. Right after that, French Quarter Fest is running from September 30th to October 3rd. And for those not familiar, French Quarter Fest is like a somewhat more accessible version of Jazz Fest minus the headliners. So the festival grounds are the French Quarter itself, which you can't close off to the general public. Anyone can come and go as they please.
Free festival.
Free to visit. There's like a markup on the food if you're doing festival food for sure. And then, but the music in general, you can, it makes me feel much more at ease to like go from stage to stage, come and go easily, tip musicians because you're much closer up with them, buy their CDs, all that stuff, and I discover something new every single French Quarter Fest.
Yeah,
so
they always have amazing artists on the stages, and it's got that outdoor music festival vibe, but like in the quarter, so you can wander around, go into bars, whatever. But it's an excellent experience, but also really cool stuff. Like one time I stumbled into the convent on Ursulines. They have a big church there, cathedral sort of space. I'm sure there's a name for it. I'm forgetting. But there was just like singers in there just singing and using the acoustics of the space. It was beautiful. So French Quarter Fest is awesome and free, which is incredible.
Yeah, it is like for anybody who's not a devout music festival goer, but who really loves live music, it's like a nice middle ground.
Yeah, and you get the fun of festival food. If you haven't been to Jazz Fest, festival food is a big part of Jazz Fest, and people have specific dishes they only make for Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
But you'll get a lot of that vibe of that type of food in Jackson Square. They typically set that up with all the vendors selling food, and it's amazing. And
it's a great way to like try restaurants that are not normally within easy reach of the kind of typical tourist itinerary. A bunch of restaurants from further out, other parts of the city will come in and sell 3 or 4 of their signatures. And I find it, because it's like small amounts, it's like, little sort of appetizer size things. It's a great way to try a bunch of unusual things at once.
Yeah.
You'll see places selling like gumbo zarab, like green gumbo, and like yakimain, this like unusual soup that's a New Orleans signature, but not on most of the French Quarter menus. It's a great way to broaden your New Orleans culinary palette a little
some
bit.
New Orleans food. And they're doing French Quarter Festival effectively twice this year, so we need to be sure to support it because in terms of a sponsorship and making it be a free festival for everybody, that's a big ask because they're doing it in September 30th through October 2nd, but then they're also doing it in the normal time slot, which is April 21 to 24 of 2022. So they're doing the same festival like twice 6 months apart, which is insane, especially for a free festival.
It's bonkers.
Yeah, we want to be sure that it's successful for them so they can keep going. And Satchmo Summerfest is the same French Quarter Festival organization, and so that's part of their festival package too. So they're cranking over there.
And to the point of like it being a crazy fall, I've been chatting with people who are in a few different lines of work. Like I'm acquainted with a wedding planner, and she said like it's hard to find hotel rooms in the city for the fall at this point. And I was talking with some real estate people, and they're like, the reason it's like so much a seller's market in New Orleans right now is because in part a lot of people are buying houses to turn back into Airbnbs. Like, say what you will about that industry and its effect on neighborhoods and so on, like they're in extremely high demand. And so for places that have the kind of floor plan that you want for an Airbnb, like they are getting snatched up. So it just says that like capacity is being reached for the fall. So if anyone is thinking of coming here for the fall, I mean, A, sooner the better, but B, even if it doesn't work out, all this stuff's going to be happening in spring again, which is just wild to think about.
And if you want to buy a house in New Orleans, scroll up a little bit on this channel. We did a tour of a Creole house in the Treme that is for sale, and it's awesome. Andrew and I were walking around. We were like, do we have enough money? Can we just figure this out? Let's just buy this house. We'll figure it out. It's a beautiful house. It's fantastic. I highly recommend watching that video, but also buying that house.
Yeah, and next to an overpass that might be removed in the next few years. So who knows what kind of skyrocketing property value there might be. The first part
of the infrastructure plan. We'll see how it goes. Yep.
Catching up on a few questions, y'all. Got will we ever do another food tour again? Absolutely. There's so many more restaurants to highlight, and it's just getting easier and easier for us to go inside of businesses and be able to put interiors on display. So we're definitely excited to make that happen soon. Whether we eat New Orleans oysters in July, you can get good oysters all throughout the year. There's a primary season for it, which is not the summer, but like you can get good Gulf oysters all year. Yeah. And then and Sarah asks,
smaller events around town, like Jammin' on Julia and the Champagne Stroll and Magazine.
Yeah, I mean, so you have good general resources for events of all sizes, which would be like neworleans.com, NOLA.com/Gambit, which is the Gambit Weekly. Both of them, like Gambit is great at doing lists of events for the upcoming week. So if you're just like on the ground or like right before a trip and you're trying to figure out what to do, they'll list some great highlights of like live music in town, other kinds of shows, and events like the ones that you described, in addition to the really big festivals. Those will be on there too. And neworleans.com is a little bit more of a zoomed out view. It'll give you like a month by month kind of view of that stuff.
And NOLA.com does tend to have the more like local take on something. So you're more likely to get an article that like dives deep about like, why is this festival happening? What's the history? What's going on here? So they do some good reporting on those, I think. Yeah,
so either of those is going to give you, and those events, Jammin' on Julia, Champagne Stroll, those are a lot of fun. I also would advise, I don't know when these are going to come back, but we have a long-standing tradition of doing Friday and Saturday night art walks on those streets and on some other streets that are like smaller versions of the same thing. So that'd be a thing to look into as your plans to come here happen.
Thank you for the peanuts, Jody. We appreciate that.
Okay, I would feel a whole lot better about being on a shirt if Roby and James were with me. So
probably makes more sense.
I'm down for that plan.
Yes.
And Sharon, please sign up for any of our tours. Any plans on doing abandoned places in New Orleans? You know, we've looked at some like ghost towny type stuff a little further afield. Abandoned things in New Orleans tend to be there's an old power plant, which actually further down in our event list. So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but Buku Music and Art Festival, Music and Art Experience, is on October 22nd and 23rd, and it is happening in the Market Street Power Plant, which is like a big abandoned power plant.
Is that down by the river?
Yeah.
With the big smokestacks?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
how that's happening, I don't know.
Confederacy of Dunces.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And used, I think, in like Terminator or some of those movies that were shot here.
Buku has typically been in those fields, sort of in front of the convention center.
Yeah.
You know?
So they seem like they're moving over. That's how they're describing it. Okay. Whether they're in like the outdoor portion among all the like little towers, or whether they're doing somehow
great.
the indoor part.
If you're into abandoned places, I recently joined a Facebook group called Abandoned Louisiana. That's actually really cool. People are posting amazing like abandoned places all the time. There's also a beach in New Orleans called Lincoln Beach that was set up and was a primarily African-American beach out in the east, I think. But now they're starting to do a project to restore it and turn it into a place where people can be again. So pretty cool.
Yeah, we have actually like beaches that feel somewhat like the Gulf Coast along Lake Pontchartrain, and this was one of them from back in the days of segregation.
Yeah.
And in terms of getting a glimpse through videos of the abandoned stuff of New Orleans, while we haven't done much of that so far, our colleague in New Orleans YouTubing, NOLA Deej, Deej, does a good bit of that stuff. So worth keeping an eye out for his things, and you can get like some drone views and some firsthand exploration of all that stuff. Yes. And teas and fanny packs, my goodness, and beers. Yes, put us on a beer. I would go for that. A house in the Marigny, who doesn't want that?
That would be great. I think what's her name? Someone famous just bought one. I forget. Anyway.
Yes. Dina asks about bathrooms during French Quarter Fest. Not much better than just at French Quarter in general, but they do put up portos all throughout the neighborhood.
They had porta potties. It's a good question, though. Generally, if you go into a bar in the French Quarter and you need to use the bathroom, it's nice to leave a tip or, buy something at the bar, but generally you can use the bathroom without too much trouble.
Yeah, especially in crowded times like that.
Yeah.
Tommy says flying in 2 weeks from Florida with an 18-year-old, first time in New Orleans. Any suggestions? That's great. I mean, I think it's fun to be young in New Orleans. I've done it. When we were kids in the area, we would
traveling with his father.
Yeah, sure, but you're right. James interpreted the hell out of that statement. So we can definitely give you some sort of live music experience in places that feel like bars, that feel like they should be 21 plus. Yeah. But Frenchman Street has several places, more than it did pre-COVID, actually, from what I can tell, that are willing to welcome in people of all ages because they serve food. They're legally allowed to do that. And so Frenchman would be a great destination for some stuff. The outdoor scene in the French Quarter is amazing. Like, there's something to see all times of the day and the evening.
And I'll mention on Bourbon Street has a reputation for being rowdy, and it can be. But, if you want to have a little bit more family-friendly experience, if you go a little earlier in the day, you'll still see the bars, you'll still see some street performers, but it's a little bit less of like a raunchy crowd, so maybe a little more PG-13 during the day, whereas at night it can get to be interesting. And then the rest of the quarter is worth exploring. And of course, if you're coming, you should obviously take a tour with one of the guides and check out the city that way, because they've got a lot of great like local knowledge, and they can help point you in the right direction and let you know what's going on that weekend.
For sure, we can dig much deeper into that stuff, because it is, so much of our culture is event based that it is kind of day by day.
Yeah.
We have a question about what the video inside the house is, and it's the title of the video is Historic New Orleans Architecture Creole Cottage Home Tour. And when you look at the screen grab, it says peek inside a Creole cottage home. It's just a couple weeks back that it posted. So easy to find, hopefully.
We make the videos, we don't title them, so I wasn't sure of the title. Sorry.
Yeah, I had to look it up. And then we have Stacy asking, is the Dauphine Orleans Hotel really haunted? I do not know. That's actually not one
definitely
that I'm familiar
haunted.
with.
They're all haunted.
Yes.
Yes, everything's haunted. This theater is definitely. Do you see any ghosts back here? Keep an eye out for us.
Seriously, James was messing with the lighting earlier, and I saw a specter in one of the doors back there. I mean, that would have been plenty. I wouldn't have even need to throw the beer thing to convince y'all if you'd seen a moving spectral figure in the back, but y'all wouldn't have paid any attention to us then, so I'm glad she left. We do haunted history tours at night, so we have guides who specialize in that, and I'm hoping we'll be able to share them with you very soon.
Yeah. Let's catch up a little bit.
And then AJ again. My goodness.
Yeah. We also love the road trip videos. We were talking about that the other day. That was so much fun to make.
We have a little extra from it that we got to share sometime too. Those walks in St. Francisville.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we'll actually be dropping some more videos from that tour.
Yeah.
Or that whole trip before too long.
Yeah.
So that was a really good time.
Where is Roby? I don't know where Roby is.
Roby is giving like
ceremony.
2 and 3 tours a day
right
now.
Hard.
He is in person nonstop. So yeah, he's entertaining those of y'all who are here in person. We gotta cover all bases. When does White Linen / Dirty Linen Night fall this year? It is usually late in August, and I haven't seen any information about it so far. So that is a worthwhile thing to look
awesome
into.
Grill Happy David Somerville. I have been to Central City Barbecue, and I didn't know they won the World Barbecue Rib Championship.
Oh, nice! I didn't know that
Very
either.
exciting. But I will say that, especially lately, I personally have a penchant, and I'll ask you to try Blue Oak Barbecue, which is in Mid-City. I'm a smoker myself of meats, not of any tobacco or other products. And Blue Oak Barbecue is one of my favorites in the city. They also have been doing a great job of cultivating a good workplace for their employees lately, but the food is amazing at Blue Oak. So they have these fried pork rinds that are just heavenly. It's amazing. You can see where I got my, we'll say, manly figure.
Expertise. He's loaded with expertise. Sarah's excited to take a tour with Emily soon. I'm excited to do that too. I just got to meet Emily, one of my new colleagues, a few days ago for the first time, and she's cool. I can't wait to get to take one of her tours either. And Adam says, yes, staying on the West Bank, I think you don't end up really getting a sense of the festival and concert scene here. My partner is from the West Bank, and like generally, I mean, apart from going to like Republic and stuff like that, dance clubs, it wasn't really his scene either, and he's just kind of gotten used to it in the last little bit. So I think you're far from alone in that. Gavin, hi, nice to see you. Says you watched Cajun Justice the other month on Prime, and how Louisiana folks swore by the Rougarou. So y'all who aren't familiar with this, I don't know. I haven't watched this show, so I can't speak to how true to life an impression of Cajun culture it is. But there is the Cajun werewolf, depending on who you ask, the Lougarou or the Rougarou. And it is something that, apparently like a decent number of older Cajuns take quite seriously.
Yeah, it's sort of a Cajun werewolf. I also get the impression it might just be like an older guy who gets drunk and goes on a bender and kind of like tears things up for a little while.
Everybody's so vague about what he is. Like you ask people about it and it's like he's part man, part animal. I'm like, that doesn't give us much. So it is sort of boogeyman-like with this sort of ambiguity of what you would see if you happen to spot him. So that piece of lore is fun. I will say honestly, I grew up in a town, as did James, where we had a famously haunted plantation, and we had some cemeteries that were just kind of dripping with atmosphere. So I feel like there was kind of a collective. There was more of a vibe than lore per se. You had just this atmosphere of like, if someone had a ghost story to share, you weren't surprised by it, but it wasn't in terms of stories that necessarily traveled very well. Yeah.
Throughout my career, I've worked at a number of historic sites in St. Francisville, including Rosedale Plantation and the Myrtles Plantation, and also just spent time in old buildings like this theater that was built in 1922, but on the site of an orphanage that was raised before that. And so, there's like some spirits and stuff, and it's kind of what makes it interesting living in an older city, where the history is like very, very prominent and still very much right here.
You're surrounded by literal or metaphorical ghosts at all times.
Yes.
Jody says the ghost is going to throw the beer can back one day. Can't wait. Sharon asks about repetition of the events on the 18th. Yeah. So that's going to be, again, culinary is the thing that's going on then, which is that restaurant program. So COOL. Inary, INARY. Yeah. So that it's a little bit harder to search for.
And as far as what else is going on, if you're in town on the 18th, I would check out for sure the WWOZ Live Wire.
Yeah,
if you
just back
Google
to providing
that,
it again.
It's a schedule of ongoing events, mostly music events that are happening in town. So that's a great way to know like what's happening tonight while I'm in town.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
appreciate you. And thank you, Rusty. Looking further down.
Yeah, Sarah works at Blue Oak. See, I told you
what?
It's the best.
Oh, dang. Okay. That's awesome. Brendan, would we consider a Gulf Coast road trip? All the way. Yes. Y'all drop us your ideas. I would love to get suggestions because there's a lot we don't know. And that's where we get to be tourists, where we get to go places where we don't know and just kind of, more put on display another place and a particular approach to learning about other places.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun for us.
So, and Sharon, specific events for those further dates, not sure, but again, looking at the Gambit Weekly, when you get a little closer, they would have a comprehensive listing for you by then. We have Susan saying coming on August 18th, which totally recommend for a good overall perspective of the city. The French Quarter tour that we give, or that most companies give, is very much a New Orleans 101 and would provide you a good basis for expanding into any number of other subject matters. So that's always what I would say as a first go. And it also starts in the original city. So even when you're leaving and seeing another part of town, the Garden District is kind of a reaction to the French Quarter. So everything starts with that. That's where I'd begin.
Absolutely, yeah. Christy, with regards to Plantation Tours, are they free? They do usually charge a little bit. I don't know exactly what the prices are right now, but it's not usually too much.
It's not,
in my experience.
It's not a concert, it's not it's not $10 and it's not $50.
Yeah,
is the way I'll put
You're probably
it.
looking around $20, maybe you can tell people you're under 2 and get in for free. But yeah, definitely worth it. And most of the plantations are a little bit of a drive outside of the city.
Yeah.
To see what's
so
going
transport is really the biggest thing going
biggest
on.
Challenge, yeah.
So going a little further with our list, and also we have the excellent recommendation from you. Oh, Dina says come to Pensacola. That could be a great endpoint to do the Gulf Coast trip. I think all about it. And come on to DC.
There.
All the way would. Yolanda highlights that WWOZ, which James mentioned, that provides the live wire, is also a radio station that can be streamed from anywhere, and it's incredible, y'all. You cannot do better. To round up the events that are going to be going on, so we mentioned French Quarter Fest from September 30th to October 3rd. The next weekend and the one after that are our relocated Jazz Fest, which is that more full-scale, one site ticket gets you in. You don't go back out until you decide to leave.
October is going to be hectic.
And we just got the music lineup for it, and it's pretty beastly. So tons of stuff to see. And then we didn't know this. We are finishing the month with Fried Chicken Festival, October 23rd and 24th, which is another combination food and music festival.
Excellent.
What's canceled was City Park. Was the one in City Park at the end of the month, which is Voodoo Fest. Yeah.
No voodoo. The ghosts scared them away. What are you going to do? I don't know.
And that's usually more of a like indie festival in terms of the kind of music you'd hear. Way fewer local acts, if any. So honestly, if something has to be axed from the itinerary, it's not too bad.
So. Andrew and I are not shock jocks, as you can tell, but I'm going to read this. This is the lineup for Jazz Fest. I'm going to read it, not all of it because it's like pages, but I'm going to read the first few lines as though I were a shock jock. We'll see how it goes. Let me know if you've heard of these because I've heard of most of these. So the top headliner is Dead and Company,
which is a Grateful Dead kind of reboot.
That makes sense. So The Grateful Dead, they should have put that. That would have been more clear. Anyway, Stevie Nicks, Foo Fighters, Jimmy Buffett, Lizzo, Demi Lovato, The Black Crowes, H.E.R., her? I don't know what you're supposed to say.
Sure, don't know that one.
Brandy Carlisle, Nora Jones, Tedeschi Trucks Band, The Beach Boys. I assumed they were dead. That's what I get for assuming. Maybe it's one of those ghost things. Trombone Shorty, John Baptiste, Elvis Costello, Wu-Tang Clan, Soul Rebels, Ziggy look, just go to the Jazz Fest website. There's so many. Oh my God, it's going to be great.
John Baptiste is in there. Y'all, if you end up liking that music video for Freedom, you can come check it out live. We have a lovely inquiry about how Roby's doing. Roby's always great. Roby just had a great trip home to see his family. Got to take a little break and had a great reunion after a good long time with his parents, and got to introduce them to a special someone. So things are good. Thanks for asking. And then we've got Hello in Michigan. Thanks for tuning in. Week 2 is pretty great. Yeah. That's going to be a tough one to skip out on. Danny, we definitely. Yes. Hi, Danny. Oh man, and thank you, Danny. I saw your message a little earlier today. Really appreciate you.
The rental car thing is a national issue right now. The rental car companies sold all their cars. Why? I don't know. I don't understand. I don't run that kind of business. But now I tried to rent a car for a trip I took, and it was like 2 or 3 times as much as it normally would be, and it's a lot.
And thanks everybody. Thank you, Christy, and thank you. We had Michael for recommending the thumbs up. That's very sweet of y'all, and thank you, Christy, for tipping as well. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, NOLA Deej.
Oh hey,
stop by to say hey.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Very cool.
Absolutely, you deserve it. You are doing the Lord's work, showing the ruins of the world to the people of the world, and plenty else besides. I got to catch up on your channel. It's been a little while since I've tuned in.
Yeah,
And let's see. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Nice to see you. Yeah, I showed my ignorance there. And Yolanda's watched the video. Awesome. So, and hi in Sydney. Man, yeah, Bayou Walk in the Rain. I'm for it. We have discussed. Oh man, lots of fans of that band.
I have a tour that I made that we haven't released yet. That's just driving down St. Charles in the rain. No talking. Just the sound of the rain and the windshield wipers.
Controversial opinion, rain adds to just about anything.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a pro. I also want to do one. It's harder now. We have a video. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to share this. We're working on a video right now about the streetcar system. But I really want to do a video that's a streetcar ride in the rain. And it's a little bit harder because of some of the COVID things they put in place. It's harder to like sneak a camera in there, but we'll make it happen at some point.
We have a streetcar related video coming up, y'all. That'll be some guidance to how to do it. And we had to kind of hem and haw to get that to happen. We got it. Jody, thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
You figured it out. And Christy, so we have one of Roby's family members in here. So, Wendy, thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
It's highlight of our week too. So basically, y'all, the thesis about live events coming up is nonstop, and so
it's going to get busy. Basically, if you want to come in the fall, September, but especially October, if you haven't already booked your hotel room, you like make some new friends in New Orleans and stay on their couch, because I'm not sure there are any hotel rooms, but try for a hotel room. It's going to be busy. It's going to be a busy fall. We're excited. We're looking forward to all the festivals coming back and getting back into the swing of things.
And we have Jimmy sending a tip on Venmo. That is a completely acceptable thing to do too.
Yes,
thank you very much. YouTube doesn't play middleman.
We will definitely listen to some HER after this. I apologize that we are not well versed.
Y'all get to culture us too.
Yeah,
as if that's what we're doing, culturing. Y'all get to show us around. You get to tour us through something too.
Absolutely.
Y'all, since we have gotten this question from our Facebook group, I mentioned the Facebook group before. If not everyone's familiar with it, we have a Facebook group that has been really kind of an offshoot of the YouTube channel. And if you're watching on Facebook, then obviously you're probably aware of that. But you can find the connection to it down in the description of any of our videos. It is a kind of just place for visitors to town, one time or regular or whatever, to just commune over good ideas. So definitely worth hitting it up when you're on the way to making a trip, just to see what other people are thinking about. And we have had people asking about safety, I think just probably as an offshoot of kind of nationwide and extremely widespread spikes in crime in a lot of places, probably, and certainly I would imagine here, connected with the fact that just a lot of people have been out of work for so long. And we are a service town, and so it definitely seems like that would be a driving force there. So in terms of that, though, I mean, really, like, the advice that I would offer about New Orleans is pretty consistent across the board, and it is the same kinds of wisdom that you'd apply in a lot of other cities. But I think the kind of implicit question with it in New Orleans is people tend to be thinking New Orleans is a place to cut loose. So the question is, like, how loose can I cut? And the answer really depends on where you're going to be. It's slightly different if you're going to be spending all of your time in and around the French Quarter in the main touristic drag, or if you're going to be like getting an Airbnb and staying in some other part of town entirely, because doing your research is just two different questions in that case. But either way, what I would start with is coming to town, getting your bearings in the place where you're going to be, talking to people who regularly spend time there, so desk staff if it's your hotel, neighbors if you're staying at a house, your host if it's an Airbnb type situation, and just getting a feel for the routes that you should be taking. Because especially if you're in or near the French Quarter, populous routes are available, but it's not going to be every single possible way you might want to go from one spot to another. So, like, can you get from the business district to Frenchman Street safely? Absolutely, but not if you just kind of wander in the general direction necessarily. So I would always scope that out first thing and get a sense for, during your first day, you know, where are the people, where are the crowds, where is the light, and follow those things. And honestly, I would go a night without drinking. If you're going to be staying long enough, I would do a whole first night completely sober and just get the lay of the land during that first time there, because really that tends to be where a lot of the problem comes in, is that folks both display that they are off their guard and they display that they are tourists. And the combination of those two things is what can be dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I'm talking about like petty theft type stuff.
Yeah.
When you look at crime in the French Quarter, it is on the whole a lower number on average compared to how many people are in the neighborhood versus the rest of the city. And when it does happen, petty theft is often kind of close to the ceiling of it. It's a lot of like noise stuff, and it's a lot of like car related stuff. You just want to make sure that you're keeping your stuff close at hand and that you are less visibly drunk than the people near you.
That's right. Yeah, I think keeping your wits about you is actually really important. And if you have decided that it's your bachelorette weekend and you're going to cut absolutely loose, make sure you have some good friends with you who will be keeping their wits about them and who will take care of you. I think most of the things that can happen are when you break away from your group or when you are by yourself. That can be obviously a more difficult situation. But yeah, definitely staying in populous areas, being aware of where you park, where you leave your car is pretty important. Parking in the French Quarter is expensive. We know it. I work here every day and I pay so much in parking. I hate it. But it's worth it because I'm parking in a lot where there's a lot of people coming and going, and there's just like more security. Then there's an idea that it's safer. Is it completely safe? It's as safe as it can be.
And I mentioned the idea of scoping out are there people around? Is there good lighting? All that stuff. If there's not, then it's just worth planning from the beginning that you are going to get rides to and from. If you're staying a little ways out and you don't have a public transit route that takes you from like well-lit spot A to well-lit spot B, just factor that into your budget and your planning that you should get car rides.
Yeah. The Uber and Lyft prices have gone back down to pre-pandemic levels. They're now much more reasonable in the city. They'll go up for festivals and things as they always do, but Uber and Lyft are a great way to get around the city.
I also would say, like, on the occasion violent crime happens in the Quarter. It is relatively rare, though it tends to get amplified because it is such a high-profile area, but it tends to be on Bourbon Street and it tends to be late at night. So I think being done by, before 4 a.m., reasonable and safety-inducing.
Yeah, totally.
So those are a few thoughts that I would have on that subject. But just like I think just to a lot of people who are new to it, the thing I would put on that it isn't like other cities, the French Quarter feels dangerous, but that's part of the French Quarter's brand. It is less dangerous than it feels, but you also should go through a full day, having your wits about you, scope it all out, have a designated sober person with you, and just do all the basic safety stuff that you would do in another
Be aware
city.
of yourself and your surroundings at all times, and you'll be okay.
And I guess the last thing I would throw in on that is if you end up walking in relatively quiet places where there's not a whole lot of other people around, it's worth knowing how not to look like a tourist. And so if you kind of look ahead and know where you're going, talk on the phone with somebody, and don't wear Mardi Gras beads or a fanny pack, then you're likely in better shape. So that's
helps.
A few ideas.
Yeah. And if they ask you, if they say they know where you got your shoes at, you tell them you got your shoes on your feet and you keep walking.
And
it's just a fact.
Yes.
Yes. I would skip the Wesley Curry.
We have some other thoughts coming up. Silver, thank you.
Great to see you.
Looking
Welcome.
forward to having you back in September? Yeah, that beautiful month.
Oh, Jerome's coming to see you on Friday.
Oh, nice. So I'm doing my music and arts tour again, y'all. That has come back online.
That's such a cool tour, y'all. Andrew's did a great job developing that. So enjoy that tour, Jerome.
And now that we've got live shows going back on, I'm really happy to be able to endorse them to people. So it's going to be a good time. Stacy asked, what bars does James frequent so we can buy him drinks and see who can drink the most? So I can close a brewery for a day.
Stacy, on the topic of safety while drinking, my personal MO for drinking is if I'm going to get drunk, I'm going to do it at my house where I can just fall asleep on my couch. And it works. It's fantastic.
I have known there to be exceptions to that rule, I will say. But other people's houses are the close second place.
Yeah, I've fallen asleep on your porch. That doesn't count. But not in the Quarter.
We haven't had our couch long enough for it to be, quite statistically significant yet. But I imagine sooner rather than later.
As far as bars, I would highly recommend. One of my favorite bars is all the way uptown on Magazine Street, the Bouligny Tavern. It's a bougie bar. I apologize for that. But they have some of the best cocktails, small plates. It's connected to a restaurant called Lillette.
Mm-hmm.
I said it right. Who knew? But anyway, they're open till like 2 a.m. and it's a fantastic small plates and cocktails kind of place. Boulini Tavern.
Yeah.
Also on that topic, there's a new cheesesteak restaurant in town that I'd like to recommend called Yinzer's Amazing Cheesesteaks. That is uptown on Delachaux, or maybe it's on A-Line. It's right there. It's right next to Toro.
To each other. Okay.
Yeah. But it's a couple from Pittsburgh who make these amazing Philly cheesesteaks that are the best I've ever had. I haven't been to Philadelphia, so I don't know. But definitely in New Orleans, the Philly cheesesteaks are worth checking out. And they're right next door to Britannia Bar, so you can get a drink and have a good time there. So highly recommend Yinzer's Amazing Cheesesteaks.
Regina, welcome back and happy birthday in advance.
Yes, Regina,
looking forward to having you around. And yeah, traveling solo, that is like the ultimate kind of safety situation to be hyper conscious of. Pretending to be on the phone or actually being on the phone a great deal of the time.
And I love traveling solo. I'm all about it.
Seriously.
I wish you well. It's a great way to see the city without having to worry about what your cousin wants to do, because we've all been there. But yeah, you just have to be that much more aware of yourself, and I'm sure you're well prepared for that adventure.
We have the question, too, of where we stay away from. I mean, day versus night is a pretty big difference.
Yeah. And it depends what you're looking for, right? I think there's certain areas of the city that are you might consider tourist districts that are a little bit more welcoming to outsiders. There's some areas like thinking about New Orleans East, that it's not on your typical itinerary for a visit to New Orleans. If you find yourself wanting to go further afield, if you're the sort of person who wants to see those abandoned places farther out, just be wary that you're going into areas where tourists are maybe a little bit less welcome.
Yeah, and really especially just when you look at straight up crime maps as far as what stats are, you are looking at some of the furthest flung neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's like areas of the West Bank and New Orleans East are where the numbers are the most extreme, and really a visitor would have to go quite out of their way to get to those spaces.
Yes. Uber and streetcars are a great idea.
And
go ahead.
And Carla compares the experience with getting around in Brazil. Yes. This depends on what your references are, whether this stuff takes much getting used to or not.
Yeah.
September 22nd, June. Awesome. We'll be still in the thick of some of these things. You got culinary going on at least.
Can I say one more thing on the topic of safety that we sort of touch on? Crime is its own issue, but the other thing that you need to be aware of traveling in New Orleans is the weather. This is a tropical-ass city.
Yes.
And it rains. So keep an eye on that weather app, and if it looks like it's going to rain, just be thinking about where you're going, where you're going to be. You don't want to get caught in the middle of City Park in a rainstorm. You don't want to get caught in mid-city in a rainstorm. The French Quarter usually doesn't flood, but man, it'd be nice to be inside somewhere. I say usually. It flooded a little bit last weekend. This city has a pump system. I think we all know New Orleans is below sea level. That's kind of one of our claims to fame, along with the ghosts and the music. But there's a system of pumps to move water out of the city. That system was put in the 1920s and 30s, and it's one of our most historic landmarks that's still here from the 1920s and 30s. So there's certain areas of the city where in a pop-up rainstorm in the afternoon can quickly turn into small lakes. There's a neighborhood called Lakeview out near the lake, a pretty good, well-to-do neighborhood.
Upper middle class.
Yeah, but if you're visiting there, make sure you have a friend with a 2-story house or like a kayak during a rainstorm, because it floods pretty regularly. So it's something to definitely keep an eye on, especially in the summer months. These rainstorms come up out of nowhere. They may not. We were trying to film a video the other day. It was hilarious. We looked at our weather apps and we're like, we're good. Let's start rolling. And we start doing the thing, and then it just pours. Yeah. And I'm trying to keep rain off the camera. So just keep an eye out.
If y'all watch the House Types tour that's going to come out soon, you will see a lot of dampness in the background and some dripping stuff and some dodging of puddles.
Yes.
James is also conceiving a water infrastructure tour. If y'all are into that, let us know.
Google the old river structure. It's amazing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I endorse that too. AJ asks, is District Donut still going strong?
Yeah,
yes.
They are. I ate there the other day.
Several locations.
Oh, I forget what it's called. It's a brown butter dot thing.
It's a buttermilk drop.
Buttermilk drop. So good.
Yeah,
Highly
they're
recommend.
great. If you need your just classical sugar in many forms, District Donuts is hard to beat. We have Don't Sleep on Pittsburgh cheesesteaks. Yeah, and we've got the Yins is a Pittsburgh
They are
reference
from
apparently.
Pittsburgh, but
so
they make Philly cheesesteaks. I'm not from Pennsylvania.
there we
I can't
go.
comment on that.
So we also have so Yolanda adds, for girls trips we say remember Natalie Holloway, meaning we don't go off alone with a random stranger and no pictures after drinking. I mean, all of what we're saying season with the fact that James and I are who we are.
Right.
And I think us traveling alone or us going around alone in a city that we know quite well can be very different in terms of predation and so on. So, of course, season everything that we say and seek advice from more sources.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sharon, we don't have a list ourselves of restaurants that are open. It's extremely a moving target, but if you go on neworleans.com, they actually are tracking that.
Yeah, neworleans.com has that. And I will say, in my personal experience, Google Maps has actually done a good job.
They've been great.
If they say a restaurant is open, there's a good chance it's actually still open,
Yeah, so definitely, since every week is a somewhat different matter, we keep having more places open. That's something worth steadily updating on. And hi, you were just here last week. Awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
and Frenchman in the early evening is pretty
great. Over there.
great.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got someone coming in for a honeymoon. Congratulations. And American Horror Story locations are still very much a must-do on ghost tours, so you can count on that. Hurricane season is upon us.
It is hurricane
worth
season.
repeating.
Yeah, keep an eye on those for sure.
And yeah, Silver, once you've done enough trips here, you start to develop that sort of block by block sense of where is the place to be. And yeah, in the area you're talking about, like it's very doable to get that nuanced sense within a few trips. Jeffrey, Vietnamese, it's been a trend in the city going back to the Vietnamese immigration in like the 70s. So you're talking about a thing that is certainly building steadily, but I will say, like, I went to a gathering with my partner recently and his friends, and he are all the children of Vietnamese immigrants. And so they are very much trying out fusion at home. So you can get great Vietnamese food of the kind of classic sort in town, but at home people are making one thing that folks are maybe aware of already is Viet Cajun crawfish, which is maybe my favorite preparation for crawfish. And to the barbecue thing, one of my partner's friends put together a smoked pho that was pretty excellent.
That sounds cool.
It was real different, but it was pretty excellent. So yeah, there's
a lot of
innovation
excellent
going on.
Vietnamese restaurants. Lately in the news has been Dong Phuong, which is a bakery out in the east. And they've been in the news because they've had some trouble with copyright, with some branding things. Go read about it on NOLA.com if you're interested. But their food and their baked goods are exceptional. Their king cakes are they've been blowing up these past few years. They've been wait lists to get king cakes. It's pretty astounding.
They got a James Beard Award, this place that's out in the middle of nowhere, and they also are a big provider of po' boy bread around town. So if you eat, especially banh mi, the Vietnamese po' boys, but even if you eat just straight po' boys some places.
Yeah, well, and I'll make excuses in my work to go out to the east just to go to Dong Phuong and get a banh mi, because the banh mi, you roll up and it's like $4, $5, and it's this bun full of meat and vegetables and sprouts, and it's like some sort of mayonnaise sauce with magic in it. I don't know what it is. It's fantastic. Highly recommend Dong Phuong. Any day of the week.
Oh, that's so. James, AJ, thanks for catching that. James's beard gives awards. Yes. Well done. I missed the opportunity for that one.
Excellent.
And yes, we also have AJ mentioning Mofo, which is a great example of kind of the classics and the fusion Vietnamese food in the same place. Mofo's great, right over by City Park.
And Ichi-san, if you want to know about real New Orleans voodoo, I would highly recommend Priest Roby's Voodoo Tour, which is on the Free Tours by Foot site. There is a YouTube video. If you scroll, it's almost a year ago now. I don't know when we made that video.
Down, yeah.
There's a voodoo tour on the. Maybe I'll find the link and post it in the chat. But yeah, that's a good way to learn from Roby's point of view about it. And then he does a live tour, sounds like 3 times a day, some days, that you can sign up for and join. And he's a real voodoo priest. Like, he grew up in plantation voodoo. There's no, messing around. It's real.
It's relatively rare to see people talking openly about this these days, but like in Louisiana, the voodoo religion is still alive. And I would say there is kind of a pattern right now of people kind of joining the religion despite not having grown up in it. And it's not specifically even a sort of racially determined thing. And there are a decent number of people for whom it is kind of a reconnection with an ancestral religion that takes them back to the sort of pre-colonization, pre-slavery experience in their own eyes. That's a lot of what Roby shares with us. But also that there are people from who don't have African ancestry, people from other religious traditions who just see an identification in it and join on those grounds. And it is, I would say in that sense, growing in frequency that you will see it, but there is, because of that raised visibility, also definitely a raised sort of opportunism. And, for as long as New Orleans has been selling kind of magic in any and all forms, voodoo has been the basis for that. And so selling popular conceptions of voodoo to all kinds of different audiences has been a mainstay of New Orleans tourism for a long time. So finding the real deal is pretty hard. And these days, I just have to, like, when I see something claiming to be voodoo, I have to run it by certain people and just get the professional's point of view. So it's a hard thing to screen for, which is why we're just recommending one specific person, because
right.
we ourselves are not experts.
We know that he's genuine and the real deal.
Thanks, Silver, for endorsing the Esplanade video. Man, that was a fun walk to do. And Esplanade is a gorgeous street. Yeah. It's true. I was holding the camera, as it were. I was holding my phone with no gimbal because I could not get them to attach to each other. So,
I recently got a 360 camera, so we could do a 360 live stream just to make everybody very nauseous. It's possible. I don't know why. Maybe we should just do it just to prove that it's a bad idea.
James loves getting his new toys, y'all. There is just steady new equipment coming in. If y'all track our videos from a long time ago to now, you can see a major increase in video quality. And
I'm trying. I don't know.
I think you're pulling it off.
We're moving in the right direction.
And then we also we're having folks throw out restaurant recommendations. Yeah, please get them all in there. Degas House is fantastic, and that's on Esplanade. So one of the reasons to visit that, one of many reasons to get out on that street. And we have a visitor from Connecticut for the 30th time. Whoa! And info on Culinary, I believe they have posted their menus by now. So you ought to be able to get on Culinary's website and see you got the spelling right, and be able to see what things will be available. Any of the menus that are on the Culinary list are available the entire time span. So whatever is on that list should work for the dates that you're going to be around. Chris has the question about cemetery tours. So we are trying to get back into the world of cemetery tourism. I mentioned this briefly at the beginning of the video, but just to revisit it in some more detail, one of the challenges in New Orleans tourism right now is that both the main church-owned cemetery in town, St. Louis No. 1, which is right outside of the French Quarter, oldest cemetery in town, the most visited one of the most visited ones anywhere, that one has been closed because of COVID for a year and a half, and I think at this point the Archdiocese is sort of reconsidering what kind of tourism they want happening within it, so they are keeping it closed for an unannounced amount of time. And then the main city-owned one, which is Lafayette Cemetery No. 1, it's in the Garden District. It's been closed for repairs, and COVID greatly slowed that down. So there's not a clear timeline on its reopening either.
But if you go to Commander's Palace, you can peek in the gate.
You can get a glimpse. Yeah. And any Garden District tour that we do, we get that glimpse inside the gate. So we can give you the bare essentials of how those things work. But unfortunately, like a full-on cemetery tour is a thing that's pretty hard to come by right now. So there are tons of other cemeteries in town. And what we're looking to figure out the best way to do is to get out to Metairie Cemetery, which is along the highway as you come into the city. It's at the end of one of the canal streetcar lines. So it's very accessible via public transit, albeit there's that cross under the interstate highway and a little bit of stairs and so on to deal with. But ultimately, once you get in there, it is so worth it. The monuments in there are insane and incredible, and we are looking to make that happen pretty soon. I don't know whether we will have those up by the end of July. It'd be nice to say that we can whip it together that fast, but keep an eye on our tour calendar. I would very much like for that to be the case. Silver recommends New Orleans VR. That would be a great way to...
well, he's riffing on my 360 idea.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it would need to have beer goggles for the VR, so you can really experience it.
To SA, thank you for confirming that the menus are up. Yeah, restaurants that are going to do more constrained dates will generally say so on that website. So if there is anything that's not going to be offered, then you'll be able to see it.
Sharon, to speak to the Lalaurie Mansion, so the building that's there now is privately owned. It's a private home, but also the building that's there now is not the building that was there when the myth or the story of Madame Lalaurie happened.
Yeah.
So what's there, people... There's an Ozzy Osbourne episode. I guess he made something.
Yeah.
Sandy was telling us about this the other day.
They had like a reality show.
Yeah, and I guess you can see inside on that because Ozzy Osbourne got access because he's Ozzy Osbourne. But the normal person can't go inside, and there's probably wouldn't be anything to see. The building that's there is much more modern. It's not where anything happened.
Yeah, it is definitely an evocative space in the way that French Quarter interiors in general kind of are.
Sure.
You can feel the history of it, and definitely it has been kind of creepified by some of its past owners, but it's been a private home for decades. And Bill, I'm glad you watched the video with Diana. Yeah, we did it. We posted, for those who aren't aware, a video in Charleston recently, because Free Tours by Foot is in a lot of cities, and my colleague in Charleston, Diana, gave us a tour around a lot of Charleston. Frankly, managed to include quite a bit in a single video. I threw in a little introduction just to help nudge y'all who have mainly just been watching the New Orleans videos in the right direction, but it is worth your time, I promise.
Absolutely, yeah. Can you fly drones in the cemeteries? I haven't. This is a tricky subject. I'm going to say that I don't know, and we're going to leave it there. The rules around flying drones are a little bit tricky. And they keep changing also. And then also whether you're flying recreationally or professionally makes a big difference. But I wouldn't recommend doing it without explicit permission.
I will say archdiocesan cemeteries, Catholic cemeteries, ask people not to take any kind of video, drone or otherwise.
Yeah.
So public ones, privately owned ones might be a different matter.
Yeah, a lawyer might say you're not allowed to fly drones over people without their express consent, and unless you've gotten signed waivers from all of the people buried there, you may be
people, indeed. It opens up questions about the definition of people. Someone has a tour with Roby. Awesome. Yeah, he is every bit as lively in person as on the videos. You're in for a good old time. And Stacy asks, good music and bar area outside of Bourbon and Frenchman. Kermit Ruffins does have a bar. I will say, outside of those two areas, the benefit of Bourbon and Frenchman is that you have a lot in one place. And you can absolutely find an itinerary within the French Quarter that is not Bourbon and will give you some great music, but just takes a little bit more collecting and a little bit more movement in between. You can definitely find some good music and just live performance in general out on St. Claude Avenue, which is a little further into the Marigny than Frenchman Street. There's a cluster of things around the Always Lounge, Always with 2 L's, which has a lot of great live performance of various kinds. And then definitely Kermit Ruffins' place, which is in the Treme. There was Kermit's Treme Speakeasy, so it's possible that you've seen that one, but Kermit's Mother-in-Law Lounge is the one that is operating right now and that he performs in quite a bit and also provides food for just to whoever shows up. So Kermit's is a great place to hit up. Otherwise, it's just kind of bar by bar. You just got to find a specific one that you like, and there are tons of great ones, and that's where that WWOZ live wire comes in handy, because often at least you can tell by the name of a band approximately what category you're looking at, and you can use that to see where in town a particular bar is that's going to tickle your fancy. And then, great question. So June asks, any Greek restaurants with live entertainment in the Quarter? I worked in one in Decatur years ago. So Decatur used to be, back before the days of containerization, so we're talking early 80s back, Decatur was where all of the like longshoremen worked. So where all of these people who traveled on ships, the local people who worked the docks, it was just the hangout for all kinds of folks. And we had a ton of Greek sailors coming into New Orleans back then. And so there were all these Greek hangouts with like live Greek music, and it is just all gone.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that stuff was still there. I'd be hanging out there all the time.
The only place I know to consistently see live Greek music, and somebody please correct me, is the Greek festival out at the Hellenistic church.
Yeah, there's a Greek Orthodox church that hosts a spring festival in May every year.
Yeah.
And it's like way out in Lakeview, the neighborhood James mentioned a little bit ago, at the end of Bayou St. John. And they have some great live Greek music, but it's not local bands generally.
No.
Even just to get live Greek music, you got to go over to like Atlanta, which has a more kind of just active and larger Greek community than New Orleans does these days, though there is still a strong one here at this point. But I love that you worked in one of those. That, like, I would love to hear the stories from that. I didn't get to see that stuff. And then we have my great-greats came from Sicily, then lived and worked in New Orleans in the 1880s and 1890s. Is there a place I could find out information about their immigrating to the U.S.? Yeah, absolutely. So there are so a ton of Sicilians immigrated here in the time frame that you're talking about. And there are definitely, like, sometimes what you end up finding most success with, depending on whether they stayed around, is burial records, honestly. Like, that's one of the places where I've seen people find the most success. Immigration records, as I understand it, are spotty, but one thing I would like for us to do at some point is make a video of kind of doing an ancestry study and getting into those resources that are available. It gets a lot more complex to explain that side of it.
Yeah, but there are some great resources in town. City records, and also the Historic New Orleans collection has a lot.
That's true.
A lot of records there that's worth checking out. But if you reach out to them, they can help you on an individual level, which is pretty great. And
yeah, it is a very goosebump intensive section of the neighborhood, Regina, getting down to the getting down towards the Lalaurie Mansion. Thank you so much. Yes, Healing with, appreciate ya.
Yeah.
Carrollton video, I don't know yet. Yeah. It's kind of, we'll see.
You know, we filmed this streetcar video. Andrew doesn't know this yet. I did the portion of like riding the streetcar with just the camera and myself. And one of the things that I'm going to highlight is the 2000 MTV Real World House, which is 2618 St. Charles.
We briefly pointed that out in the live Garden District tour that we did a couple months ago, if anybody watched that.
So that's not on Carrollton, but that's what I think of because I thought it was on Carrollton and I was wrong. It's on St. Charles. But yeah, a Carrollton video would be interesting. That's a cool neighborhood and the Maple Leaf Bar and everything.
We've talked about doing one on Oak Street, and that would certainly feed partly into Carrollton.
Breads on Oak has a location in the CBD now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. It's pretty exciting.
Just got into that a few days ago. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Tala, please forgive me if I've missed the mark, but I would love for you to set some tours up for your time in August too. For groups of 9, we allow, so the way our tour system works here, y'all, is free tours by foot, operates public tours, which for up to 5 people, you can come on, either pay what you will, or depending on the tour, like a $2.50 per person reservation fee. And then for a larger group, up to 9 people, I believe, been a while since we've done these, you have the option of coming on for $10 a person, and then it's pay what you will beyond that if you care to. For groups that prefer it, private tours are an option. And so in that case, in either of the former cases, smaller groups or a larger group on a public tour, you can do that just via our website. For a private tour, there's the option to just kind of fill out a form for one on the website, or just to get directly in touch with the management here in New Orleans, and you can find that email address on the website too. So that would be the way to set one of those up, and just drop our names and they'll hook you up with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, as far as a place to sit and smoke your cigar, the NOLA, I think it's called the NOLA Cigar Factory, is over here on Decatur. And you can watch them make cigars, but you can also sit there and smoke your cigar. It's a great time if you like to smoke cigars.
There's a couple others whose names elude me, but that would be the one that it's kind of has like a cool little artifact space for like the history of the cigar industry in New Orleans, which was a big deal at one time. And I don't know. I mean, you specifically say within walking distance of the French Quarter, but if you would consider going a little across town, there's also Dos Jefes, which is a cigar bar. They sell cigars. It's also a bar, and they have some great live music.
I don't know if he's still there, but Tuesday nights used to be Tom Hook doing, and sometimes he would do. What's the guy with the really gravelly voice? Tom something.
Tom Waits.
Tom Waits. He would do a Tom Waits night, and so you could listen to Tom doing Tom Waits, and it was incredible. It's a good time.
So that's
Drink
a great
scotch,
space. That is like an underappreciated music venue in town. So one that for some people the smoke is a reason not to go, but for some people it is a reason to go.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've gotten through questions for the moment. Please feel free to ask any others that come to your mind in the comments, and we will get to them all in good time. It's always lovely getting to spend an evening with y'all, and we are going to venture out into a potentially rainy French Quarter and just see how it goes.
Yeah. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We love having you here, and we love doing these and just kind of sharing with you what's going on in New Orleans. And we look forward to seeing everybody here on a tour, and we appreciate you guys watching the videos.
Yeah, sounds like a huge chunk of tonight's crowd is going to be here in the near future, or at least strongly imagining the possibility. So we're willing it into existence with you. And yeah, thank y'all for sticking around. Please continue to drop us your ideas. We love hearing them, and it's definitely been the reason why several different videos came to fruition with y'all's input. So keep it coming.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. Awesome. And we'll see you next time.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.